I really like the point that he make was making. That's like, of course, a man would choose an intelligent woman because he is marrying her to raise his children, and his children are his life, and his children are his future. And so it's like, yeah, you don't want an idiot. You don't want to marry an idiot. Like having a well-educated woman is very important because also teaching is really hard. And teaching, you have to be really smart to be able to teach your kids. So if you want to homeschool your kids, you have to be super smart too.
Yeah.
So it's like being a mom doesn't mean you're a dummy that sits in a house all day. It means you're incredibly strong, incredibly smart, and incredibly caring person.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
almost like
that's
I think part of the problem there is the fact that when the government takes on like both fatherly and motherly responsibilities,
mm,
right? So the government provides for people, even their conversation around if your wife takes 18 years to of maternity leave, the government should pay her. Well, that's basically saying, okay, the government's going to be her husband in order to provide for her so that she can raise children. And that's why like God made fathers, right? So, and in the same way, when the government decided to step in and primarily take over all education and take it completely out of the hands of mothers, then you've almost created the problem they're describing. The government itself has created this problem by saying that's no longer in the purview of the mother, that's now in the purview of the state. And so now women are like, well, I have the ability to educate, and God has made me intelligent. And what am I supposed to do with that? If I have two kids and they go off to school, and I'm sitting in an empty house, like that's a good question. If that's the picture you have in your head, then that is a dilemma you need to solve, and probably work becomes the only reasonable way to solve that. But you have to understand that you sort of engineered that situation through the decision culture wide for the government to take over education in order to create more equality of opportunity for its citizens. So we can dive into that one as well. But that was a decision that we made, and that it has created a dilemma for women in the home. Sydney, what about you?
yeah, I mean, I think that our society and our government have kind of screwed the role of the mother over because there's so much supporting us getting a career. There's so many resources to use, and even like for single mothers, they have because they've been so wronged, like granted, the government is helping them out a lot, but now we just have such a skewed idea of how to do this, and no one can really understand how in they kept on saying in this present economy, in this current, where we're at right now, how is this possible? Because they don't see it. And the government and everyone else is pushing them in a different direction. And I think that's such a good point of like, we're not just walking baby makers. We're more than that. We need to be more than that. The bar for a good mother and wife is high, and it takes work to get there. It takes a lot of education, it takes a lot of brains, and it takes a lot of compassion, and it takes a lot of hard work. That's one of the reasons why our discipler had us run a 10K was because she was like, in preparation for motherhood, you need to be willing to take on physical challenges, and because it's not easy. And so this is what we are supposed to be raised to do. It is a hard thing. The very first thing that he said in that clip was like, you're it's almost like you don't think that motherhood is a rational way to use your brains. Like you have to go get a job in STEM in order to use your brains. Like clearly they don't understand what this really looks like if they think that being a mother is the option that not smart people take.
Right.
That people that aren't smart enough to be in STEM, they would go be a mom.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, there's a basic contradiction I think that I felt like they kept making, which was to say, on the one hand, the the idea of motherhood is not challenging enough, and on the other hand, we need to have smaller families and fewer children because we don't have the ability to invest in them. And so, and that's why his sort of line of, that's why they have a mother is so shocking. It's like I think to these young women, it's like that. Yes, if you were in a situation in which you didn't know how large your family was going to be and you were going to have potentially 5, 10, 15 kids, you don't know. I mean, that's an incredible amount of challenge, right? And if you're going to be educating them and training them and working with them, that then creates an environment where you need to have somebody who has that ability that they're describing. This woman who's intelligent and can manage things and can handle physical, spiritual, emotional, relational, and intellectual challenges.
And it's because they're viewing all of that through their lens of how much do I have to give up in order to be a mom and how much can I like hold on to?
Right.
Because the first thing they said, the first example they gave when they're like, okay, say that people start having more kids, are you gonna make daycare free? Like that was their first thing. I was like,
Yes.
okay, if we have more kids, then like that would be more on the daycare people. So we should make that free because that would
Right.
be super expensive. And it's like, that's what you would do if you had more kids. You would just have more people in daycare. So it's so interesting that they like cannot fathom like if we start actually using our brains for what they're supposed to be used, then we're still gonna be going and getting our STEM jobs and still gonna be dropping our kids off at daycare every day. So it's so
Right.
odd.